Okay. All right, so as we're going, we might have some more classmates pop in, which is perfectly fine. I wanted to share something with you guys. A friend of mine had shared this image on Facebook. So let me pop this image up on the screen for you. Okay. Use the chat box, guys. Can you tell me what is wrong with this picture? I mean, there is a little circle, highlight circle there, but tell me what's wrong with this picture. Tell me what this message on this product leads you to believe. Right? What a strange, excuse me, what a strange title, right? Okay, that you're eating people, cannibal, people meat. What a strange product title in the first place, right? It's for the people meat. Okay, that's just weird. And then yeah, that poor CEO, quality meats made from people like you. Now, I want you to look at that CEO's comment, the one that I just read. What do you think he was trying to say? What message do you think he was trying to convey there? Use the chat box or turn your mic on, either or. Let me know what you think he probably meant to say. Okay. Made for people like you. Okay. Yeah. Made for, yep, made from working class people. No machines in the process. Okay. So probably not meaning that it's actually made from people. I show you this image for a couple reasons. Okay. In this class, you guys know, obviously, you're going to be working on a paper throughout the semester. We also will be, sorry, I'm going to be like umming a lot today for some reason. We also will have 3 group presentations. Okay, you guys will all be participating in 3 group presentations. On top of that, you guys email me. You use the chat box. There will be times where we use the discussion board. Now, I always want you guys to be very conscious and aware of the language that you're using, that you make sure that your message is clear. I am sure that this label that's right here on the meat, I have to believe that, not only did you have maybe a marketing department, so the marketing department probably came up with this. Somebody had to have proofread it, or at least looked it over at one point. Even the graphics design department would have looked over it. And the CEO himself would have looked over it, possibly his committees or whatever looked over it, and nobody thought, hey, this may not be the right way that we worded it. So try to be very, very aware of the language that you're using in all aspects of this class. I also want you guys to keep in mind that anytime we do a peer review, we use the discussion board, even comments in the chat box. Any constructive criticism that you get, please make sure that you take it with the intent that it is meant, okay? That we are all here to help each other out, because nobody wants to have this kind of representation, right? Nobody wants to be thought of as a cannibal. So that's why I show you that image. I have friends that tag me in bad grammar things all the time. I get images all the time. So really look out for yourself and look out for each other. Okay? All right. So I wanted to go over just a couple of things that we had touched on last week because it springboards us into what we need to do this week. As we go through class, if you guys have any questions, you're confused about anything, please make sure you either turn your mic on or use the chat box, but don't let a question go unanswered, okay? Last week, if you guys recall, towards the end of class, we were talking about subjects or topics. A subject and a topic is the same thing. And then subtopics, okay? And so you guys had worked in groups. I gave you a topic, gave each group a topic, and then together you discussed what some of the subtopics could be. So I would like to pull that up on the screen. I actually saved what you guys had put in the chat box so we could use it for just a little bit of a discussion today, okay? So let me get that screen up for you. Okay, so hopefully you are seeing a Word document on your screen. So these were the groups. Excuse me. Group 1 had vaccines, okay? And so the subtopics that they have are listed right there. They came up with 4 subtopics, okay? Then we had drug legalization, and we have another of our 4 well, actually, they come up with more. How many did they come up with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 subtopics, okay? Group 3 had stem cell research. They came up with 5 subtopics. Now here is why I wanted you guys to do this. I want you to keep this in mind as you continue to try to develop the topic and subtopics for your paper. Here's the reason why I tell you guys that subtopics, it's really important to come up with subtopics, all right? So just because I'm at the end of the screen, I'm just going to use stem cell research, okay? When I have to research and I have to come up with information, we know that when we write a research paper, any type of academic paper, we have to have a thesis statement, right? And this is English Comp 2, so everybody should be familiar with thesis statements. Take to the chat box to give me your interpretation, your definition of what a thesis statement is. Everybody give me one. Give me one in the chat box. What is a thesis statement? Okay, awesome. Keep them coming. I would like everybody to give me your definition. Need one from a few more of you. There we go, perfect. So everybody look over into the chat box. These are all excellent answers. So we've got generalization of what the paper will be about. Then we've got states what your paper will be about, the main idea, drawing the audience in and letting them know what your paper is about. I kind of like that, okay. Tells the reader what your paragraphs will be about, right? It's kind of that lead in. The main focus for your paper. A thesis statement basically states what your paper is going to be about and the topics covered in each paragraph. Okay, that's a good one. When we write a thesis statement, sometimes we use what's called an essay map, and that essay map tells the reader, hey, these are the topics, the subtopics that I'm going to be covering. Summary of your topic, excellent, and a sentence that summarizes your paper. Okay, perfect. Just keeping you guys on your toes. So, when I write thesis statements, I do like to use that essay map. And you know, the essay map in theory is supposed to be for the reader, right? It lets your reader know what's coming up. I use an essay map to help guide me while I'm writing my paper because it helps me to stay on task and it helps me to keep that organization that I need. Okay, so let's just together really quickly here. This is in no way going to be a perfect thesis statement, but a working thesis statement, Okay, so let's just take stem cell research. Okay, that group came up with 5 subtopics that could be covered. Generally speaking, I encourage you guys to focus on 3 to 5 subtopics, okay, because that gives you room to grow in a big paper. I did grade some of the topic journals. I did not get to all of them, but I did try to get to at least a handful of them. When I write my thesis statement, I like to put my subtopics in there as my essay map. You do not have to do that, but just make sure you know how you want your paper organized. So I'm going to say, okay. And hopefully you guys can still see the Word document. I am just going to try to brainstorm for a working thesis. Sometimes I have to try to shake my head to think of the word here. I'm thinking. Let's see here. Okay, so this is, just like I said, a working thesis. So what I tried to do was look at some of the subtopics. Now I ended up putting in, I think 4, or maybe I did 5. Maybe I did, well, sort of. I kind of touched on all 5. You don't necessarily have to put them in there. So my thesis statement actually is kind of a 2-parter. It's telling me it wants to change that. Nope. Okay, so let's look at this. In recent years, there needs to be a comma there. Stem cell research has become an ever-evolving resource as it has been able to provide answers for healing. Stem cell research should be continued as it benefits medicine in general, provides greater wound healing, answers gene therapy questions, but it should also be continually reviewed to respect personal and religious beliefs. So I have a thesis statement and I have what we call the essay map. Okay, so look at my essay map. If you're my reader, what do you think my first body paragraph should be about? What is my first body paragraph going to be about? Use the chat box and let me know. Which one do you think? Excellent. Okay, so if you guys are looking at the chat box, my first body paragraph should actually discuss how it benefits medicine. So it could actually just kind of be an overall view of stem cell research. Then I'm going to talk about greater wound healing. I'm going to talk about gene therapy and, how stem cell research kind of helps out with that. But I'm going to continue on, and even with, all of the benefits and stuff, I am going to talk about the exigence, there's that term, the exigence of that particular topic, because stem cell research is controversial because of personal beliefs, religious beliefs, okay? Not everybody thinks that cloning is a good idea. Not everybody thinks it's a bad idea. So by breaking your topic down into those subtopics, it helps to guide you, and it helps direct you to find the resources that you need to work on your paper. That way you're not getting like 40 sources and going, I don't know which ones to use. If you take the time to break it up into those subtopics, you'll have a little bit of guidance to help you through what you're doing, okay? Any questions on that? Do you guys understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying subtopics and then putting them in your thesis statements? Let me know if you guys are confused, if I've lost you at all. Okay. Keep in mind, anytime that you guys have a question, if you don't feel comfortable typing the question in just the chat box for everybody, you can send me a private message, okay? All right, I'm trying to close this out. All right. I want to take us in to Blackboard. So if you guys are following along, I would love to show you where we have some of our resources, and we're going to do a few things with those resources, okay? So let's go into Blackboard. It just takes me a moment or two to shift that screen. All right, so on the screen you should be seeing Blackboard. It's just our announcements page because that's where it always, takes you when you first sign in. I'm going to go to learning plans. Now, for the first couple of weeks, we were focusing on learning plan 1. If you guys recall correctly, the chapter review that you guys all did together of chapters 1, 2, and 9 are in the learning plan 1 folder. So if you should ever need to refer back to it, that's where it's at. For this week, we're actually going to start in learning plan 2. Okay, so I'm going to open up learning plan 2. Learning plan 2, the bulk of the topic for it is exploring audience perspectives. Okay, so we know, and hopefully we all know, if you guys have been listening and if you've looked at your syllabus, you are aware that more than just the big research paper that we are working on, you guys will be giving 3 group presentations, okay? So let's go into this folder, the audience activities and assessments, okay? Now, obviously, we know that our audience is this class, right? When you're giving your presentations, you are giving your presentations to each other. But because this is a virtual class, we don't really, when we're in person, we can kind of pick up a little bit more on everyone's personalities, possibly even their beliefs. With a virtual class, it's a little bit more difficult. So you really need to keep your audience in mind when you're writing anything and when you are delivering any information. So this link right here is actually a pretty good source. I'm going to click on it. Okay, and it's audience information. Now, it's a whole web article, okay? But what I want to point out on this source is this breakdown. I love this breakdown right here, okay? If you notice, it actually spells out audience. This to me is perfect. I think it summarizes exactly what we need. So A, analyze. Who is your audience, okay? Your audience is your class. but that doesn't maybe tell you very much. Okay, so you understand. What is your audience understanding of stakeholders, problems? What information do you want your audience to understand? Okay, what information is it you're wanting to get out there to them? Demographics, okay, your audience. What language do they speak? Do we have age in common, gender in common, even income level, education level, political associations, cultural associations? Because those things kind of develop what the individual opinion is about topics. And the topics that we will be using for the group presentations are controversial topics, okay? I is interest. What does your audience care about your topic? Okay. How are you going to keep them interested in what you have to say? E, environment. What are the cultures of communities of practice you are addressing? Okay. So we're in that virtual atmosphere. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. Okay. Needs. What are your clients, your customers, pain points? What information do you think your classmates need to hear? C, customize. What genre works for your audience? Would they prefer a personal handwritten note? Would your audience prefer perhaps a touch of humor in speeches? Do they want hard facts? Those are all things that you want to keep in mind. Excuse me, and expectations. What research methods are expected? As far as your research paper and your presentations, as long as you are following the assignment details, you will be fine and you will know what your expectations are, okay? But I just liked this breakdown of audience. You guys are welcome to come back to this and read through more to kind of help you, I don't want to say dissect, but yeah, dissect your audience a little bit more to get a feel for what it is they need. Okay. All right. So without me opening anything up, I want you guys to use the chat box. I don't care if your book happens to be open to the page, but do you guys remember what TRACE stands for? The T, the R, the A, the C, the E. Use the chat box. What does TRACE stand for? In our rhetorical situation, what does TRACE stand for? Even if you can only remember one or two of the letters, give me those. Do you not remember? I can't remember which group had TRACE when we were going through the chapter summaries. What does TRACE stand for? Oh, now they're coming in. Okay. My chat box went away. Okay, there it is. All right, excellent. T, text, the written argument, okay? And when we're talking about presentations, I mean, obviously your presentations are verbal, but you've written down the information on PowerPoint slides and on cards and things like that. R is the reader, okay? The reader must care enough about the situation to pay attention. A is the author, so you, right? C are constraints, part of the situation. So we're talking about beliefs, individuals' backgrounds, events that maybe they have seen or been part of that sometimes limits your audience because they have their own thoughts, maybe on a controversial topic, okay? And E is the exigence. It's that part of the situation that shows that there is something controversial regarding that topic that you are talking about. Okay, so TRACE. text, reader, author, constraints, exigence. Okay, I need you guys to remember those 5 things because we will discuss them all throughout this entire semester. Okay, so if you have to write yourself a note in your notebook or in your textbook or wherever, please make note of those 5 things. Okay, here is what I want you guys to do. We're going to put this rhetorical situation into play. I am going to put you guys into groups, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you guys to go to the Wall Street Journal. So on your computers, your phones, whatever you need to do, the Wall Street Journal is actually just WSJ.com, okay? WSJ.com. So I want all of you to go there. I'm going to put you in groups. In your groups, here's what I want you to do. All right, remember the 5 things, okay? Text, reader, author, constraints, exigence. Okay, remember those 5 things. As a group, I want you guys just to kind of scroll on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and I want you to choose an article. I'm not asking you to read through the entire article, okay? I want you to click on one and just kind of go, okay, I know what the topic is and whatever. But I want you to take those 5 things and I want you to give us a detail about the text. Who is the reader? Who is the targeted reader of the text? Who is the author? Even if it's just an author's name, that's fine. Just give us the author's name. Let us know if there's any constraints, okay? This is directly from your textbook. So if you're still kind of confused on constraints, on page 28 of your textbook, it discusses constraints, okay? So keep in mind, here's some example of constraints, all right? An audience feels constrained to mistrust the media because often people think reporters exaggerate a lie, okay? This constraint may cause this audience to be cynical and suspicious of an essay written by an editor who praises reporters for always telling the truth. Okay, so our background experience, our background knowledge, even possibly some of our prejudices, we all have them, even if we don't want to admit it. We all have some type of prejudice. Try to figure out what maybe some of the constraints could be in the article. Okay, and then I want you to look at the exigence. What's the conflict of the topic of your article? Okay, do you have any question on what I want you to find with those 5 things? Let me know if I'm confusing you guys at all. You'll need to designate a scribe. Okay, somebody that's willing to write this down and then post it in the chat box when we get back. I am not looking for full sentences. I am looking for the most concise, short answers that you can come up with. Okay, so I don't want you to stress and think we gotta write paragraphs about everything. We're going for simple and short. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Because I am generating our breakout sessions right now. Okay, I am going to give you guys, let's see here. I'm going to give you guys 12 minutes. So watch the clock in the breakout sessions. You guys can still get questions to me if you're in the middle of that and you're confused. I hope you know that. I believe it's like raise your hand or something like that, and then I can come pop in your group. So attempt to get all 5 things. With whatever article you guys choose, it's all your choice. And it doesn't matter if some of the groups choose the same article. I don't care. Look for those 5 things, write down what they are, and then after 12 minutes, we'll come in back into our main classroom and we'll share what we found. Okay? So one last time, any questions? Okay. Let me create the assignments here. Make sure to put everybody in one. All right. Well, I will see you guys in about 12 minutes and we will discuss our rhetorical situation, okay? Awesome, everybody got in. Okay, those responses are coming in. Awesome. I think we've got one more group that we're waiting for. Okay. Okay, so it does look like two groups did use the same article. And oversight on my part, I meant to tell you guys to list the article title under text, but that was my fault. I didn't tell you to do that. Okay, so let's look at these. Okay, so whoever was in Taya's group, let's see, the author was Sarah Cheney Cambon. The audience, people who are interested in the economy and employment rates and or people who have lost jobs due to pandemic. Okay, constraints, people who have lost their jobs and may not be able to find jobs they still lost. Okay, that's definitely going to color their opinion on any article that they read that has to deal with employment rates or economy or jobs. Okay. All right, the text is informing the readers about the growth of unemployment rates and how that's changed in the month of January. Okay. Okay, so that's what they were able to get. Lexi's group, the text is an online article, a problem and effect article. Okay, so that's good. You were able to kind of pick out the style of writing there. Okay, so reader, parents, teachers, school district boards. Okay, the author is Yori Ko. Let's see here, the constraints. Author's goal is to try to create a common ground. So what could prevent, let me see here, use the chat box. What could prevent a common ground from being met? So it looks like, because two of you did actually use this, so it looks like the article must have dealt with the COVID-19 virus and its effect on schools. That's what I'm guessing. So if the author's goal was to create a common ground, what could prevent the reader from agreeing with the author? What constraints, what could have happened there? Hopefully I'm asking that right. Different opinions on the cause and how to handle the problem. Okay, excellent. So really dig deep and look for those things. Really think about what some of the constraints of the author could be. Maybe the author is biased. Think about what some of the constraints that the reader could have. Just like Alexis had put, the different opinions, about the cause and how to handle the problem. Okay, sometimes, you know, an author could think this is the best solution ever. This is the only one we should use. And the reader's like, this author's an idiot. What are they talking about? Okay. But because of the knowledge that we previously have coming into that. Okay. So good job. And then the exigence is Corona, which is a huge exigence even just right now. And so Jasmine's group used the same source. The text, that attendance of children in school has decreased. The reader would possibly be parents or the school board. Okay, so you guys had that in common. Same author. The constraints, whether or not your child attends school, okay, so virtual or in person. All right, and the exigence is the decision of the school board to have in-person classes. That's a huge thing right now, isn't it? I'm trying to think, and you guys can use the chat box and help me out. I feel like there was a news story about a Green Bay school, like the Green Bay district. I don't know how they're broken down. That I think they were saying they wanted to wait until teachers could get the vaccination, but parents were saying, no, we need to get back to class. So Corona is the huge exigence there. The decision of whether or not to go back in person is a huge exigence. So, all right. So do you guys have any questions on trace, on how to really look at an article, a source, and look for those 5 things? Okay, because as I said, we will be continuing to use trace, to use that rhetorical situation through the entire semester. So if you ever get stumped, either email me, private message me in my class or in our class so we can go through it. Okay. All right. What I want to show you, you guys did a great job. I'm going to take us back to Blackboard really quickly. Okay. It's going to load up Wall Street Journal, but we don't need that anymore. So here in Learning Plan 2 in that audience activities and assessments is a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint actually breaks down trace. So if you're still feeling a little shaky on that knowledge, I would encourage you through this next week to actually come to this PowerPoint and look at it. Let me give you a little preview of it. So it has all the slides in it. It breaks it down, okay, of kind of like what you would look for when you are looking at these 5 things, okay? So yeah, just know that this is a good source to come back to if you feel like you're just a little bit stumped, okay? Now, hand in hand with trace is the type of appeals that an author uses, okay? And when we talk about appeals, we're talking about rhetoric, we are talking about logos, ethos, and pathos. So I want you guys to use the chat box, and I do not care if you give me the wrong answer, but what is logos? Are you guys familiar with these at all? When we are talking about appeals, okay, ooh, look at that, somebody popped in right now. Okay, so logos, logic, excellent. Look at you guys, okay. So logos would be like our logic or consistency, right? That's the appeal that's used there. It could be, you know, if we're writing an argument, we're just going to try to use logic to get people to see our side, okay? What about ethos? What is that argument, that appeal based on? Do you know? Very good. Okay, ethos is really based on that credibility and trust. Okay, excellent. You guys are awesome. Ethos would be like if you have information from an expert or a professional in that field. Okay, so if we're gonna have a commercial, a toothpaste commercial, what type of professional would we maybe want to have in that commercial to say, you know, this is a really good toothpaste? What professional would be a good one in that situation? What professional would you believe about advice about a toothpaste? Right, your dentist or some type of professional that way. Okay, so then that leads us to pathos. What type of appeal or argument? Look at you guys, super fast. Excellent. Pathos relies heavily on emotion. Can you guys think of any commercials that you have seen lately that really, really lay heavily on pathos, that emotional appeal? What kind of commercials have you seen or ads? That's the one that I think of every time too, Lexi. Those little poor animals like shivering in the cold. Oh, every time, every time. Okay, so here's what I want to do, you guys. Gotta get my mouse working. So this won't probably be available to you, but I have this video. Okay, I want to go through this video because I really, I know you guys know what the ethos, the logos, and pathos are, but really let's get detailed with them because I want you guys to be able to identify them every time. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video from the people of Schmoop. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any Schmoop videos, but if you've ever been in any of my classes, most likely you have. The Schmoop people have a great sense of humor, so that's why I like them. So as always, I'm going to play a few seconds to make sure that you guys can hear and see, and then we'll go from there, okay?
We speak student.
Ethos, logos, pathos.
Okay. Everybody can hear. I'm getting a yep. Let me know if there was any problems, if you guys are seeing okay. All right. Well, I am going to pop it up full screen, so I probably won't be able to see my chat box very well. But if you have any questions or comments during the video, please take to the chat box and pop them in there, okay? So here we go.
A la Shmup. Kind of like Larry, Curly, and Moe. We all hate losing arguments. It feels good to be right, but it feels even better to convince someone else that you're right, and then maybe rub their face in it a little bit. Woo! What if you had a bag of tricks that you could go to anytime you felt someone needed a little persuading? Thanks to Aristotle, the great thinker from ancient Greece,
I'm smarter than you.
we have 3 such tricks that will often get the job done. They're not foolproof. In other words, they won't usually get you out of mowing the lawn or doing the dishes. But if you're writing an argument essay and want a reader to see, understand, and agree with your point, these tricks are the bee's knees. Collectively, they are referred to as rhetorical devices. You want to know what they are? Sorry, that's a rhetorical question. The 3 devices are called ethos, pathos, and logos. Once you've mastered these tools, you'll be able to write a stellar essay, win political debates, and sell just about anything on late-night television. Let's start with ethos. Ethos means moral character. When the speaker uses ethos, he's trying to persuade his audience by convincing them that he's a good guy. So if you pin someone up against a wall and demand that they prefer Coke to Pepsi, it's probably not the most effective means of persuasion. But if that same person gets the sense that you're a decent human being who just wants to discuss the subject in a calm manner, he may be more willing to see another side of the issue. But moral character alone isn't going to get her done. Enter pathos. Pathos means emotion. As a rhetorical device, pathos gets us to stop thinking and start feeling. Something political pundits seem to have down to a science.
Oh yeah.
Feelings, whoa, feelings. Does this mean we have to get all lovey-dovey and mushy-washy? Well, no, but sometimes appealing to someone's softer side can do the trick. If you're trying to convince a reader that crude oil is bad for the environment, don't just cite figures and fill up the pages with a bunch of charts and graphs. Talk about the animals that are affected, Bambi, and often killed when there's a spill. It will only help your case if you can get your reader to cry over spilled oil. And then there's the third and final rhetorical device, logos. Logos means reason, think, logic. Here is where all those aforementioned charts, graphs, and figures come into play. But it's also about explaining to your reader in clear and concise terms why they should logically agree with your point of view. It's about providing concrete evidence to support your claims. If you can make them feel stupid for daring to think anything different, all the better. But watch the name calling there. Nerd! So when writing an argument essay, don't set pen to paper without the big three in your corner. Ethos, meaning moral character, pathos, meaning emotion, and logos, meaning reason. You may also want to use Oreos, which won't add anything to your argument, but they sure are delicious.
Big Fat Review. Ethos. Moral character. Used when trying to persuade audience that a character is a good person. Pathos. Emotion. A rhetorical device used to get readers to stop thinking and start feeling. Logos. Reason. Using clear and concise terms to help readers see logically why they should agree with your point.
All right. Okay, so that is ethos, pathos, and logos. In the same folder that we've been in. Sorry, my mouse doesn't seem to want to work here for me. There is, so I showed you the PowerPoint that you can go to for a little bit more resource. There also is this website linked here, which is another great resource in regards to ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay, so if you click on that, look what it does. It gives you examples of all three devices here. Okay, so it's kind of nice to see some examples, a breakdown of it to help us out. All right. Okay. Here's what I want you guys to do. I believe we successfully used Kahoot in our first week of class. So I want you guys all, whether you've got the app, if you have the app on the phone, go ahead and open up your app. Otherwise, if you are doing it on your computer, please go to kahoot.it. And I am going to get Kahoot up and running, and I'll get a code for you guys. So get your Kahoot ready. We are going to do a Kahoot review of our ethos, pathos, and logos, okay? So, all right, let me share my screen if I can get to. Probably hear the music. All right, there we go. So enter that code either at kahoot.it or in your Kahoot app, okay? Remember, you can put your name or a nickname, just keep it PG for me, okay? And if you're having any problems, use the chat box to let me know. Awesome, we got everybody. All right, so all of these questions are examples, and you have to let me know whether you think it's an example of ethos, pathos, or logos, okay? All right, let's start. "60% of the time, it works every time." Is this an example of ethos, pathos, or logos? Okay. Even though it's faulty logic, it is a sense of logic that is trying to be used, okay? So silly logic, but logic nonetheless. And actually, I just watched Anchorman again over the weekend, and sometimes I forget how stupid funny it is, but I like stupid funny. So, okay, so yes, 60% of the time it works every time. Faulty logic, but it's still a logic that's trying to be used. All right, pretty close there. Let's go to the next one. By donating only 50 cents a day, you can help give a child clean drinking water. Okay, very good. Pathos, because we're really pulling on that emotion, right? Think of those questions that we get that really they pull on you, those advertisements. I mean, can you see them? It shows like the little kids and they're crying, okay? Really pulling on your emotion. All right, let's see where that took us. A little shifting. Okay, let's go to the next one. Choosy moms choose Jif. That's from a peanut butter commercial. What type of device is being used here? Okay, ethos. We're trying, because like moms know what's right, right? That's the credibility behind that statement, is the moms. We're trying to say that, you know, these moms who are super choosy and only want the best, they want Jif. Okay, so trying to go on the credibility of the moms. It wouldn't. It's actually the credibility of the moms. You're going to find that a lot of times it'll be hard to choose between ethos and logos, but it actually is the credibility that's being used here. Okay. Let's go to the next one. The Centers for Disease Control recommends getting a flu vaccine each fall. What do you guys think? Okay, it's ethos again, because we're talking about an expert here, right? The Centers for Disease Control, they're professionals in their field. So we are kind of riding on their shoulders, on their credibility. Now, if we would have said, if there would have been a statement in there that had maybe like a statistic, some type of fact, how, you know, I don't know, 80% or 90% of individuals who get the flu vaccine never get the flu, that would be logos, okay? That would be the logic. Any type of fact, statistic, things like that would be logic. When we are talking about an individual or a group, we're trying to use their credibility, okay? I don't know if that makes sense. All right, let's go to the next one. Nearly 25% of all car accidents are caused by drivers using cell phones while driving. Okay, excellent. So the dead giveaway on this one is we have that percentage in there, okay? We have that fact, that statistic. Okay, that usually leads us to believe that that is logos. All right, we're halfway through. My coach suggested I cross-train on Sundays to work different muscle groups. All right, good job, okay? We're looking at the coach as somebody with that strong credibility, so I should trust his opinion, right? He's the guiding factor here. All right, a few more left. Since my little brother has to start school before me, I should let him shower first. All right. right. It is logic. Okay, I know this one is confusing because you want it to be pathos because you're thinking, oh, I'm being super nice and letting him shower first, right? But actually, if you look at that statement, we're trying to use a sense of logical reasoning to figure out who should start first. Okay? I know. I have these ones in here to purposely try to trip you up and make you think, but this actually is logos because the individual is using logical reasoning to decide. Right, let's keep going. Smoking by kids is dangerous. Defenseless kids exposed to chemical lead to deadly asthma. It should say attacks. This one might be tricky too. Okay, it's pathos. All right. We don't have an individual to use as our credible source, even though it technically should be logic, right? There's no statistics, there's no like striking fact in there, otherwise it should just be common sense. It actually is the pathos. And one of the ways that you can tell it's pathos is the use of adjectives to kind of really, really boost the picture, right? Defenseless kids and a deadly asthma attack, okay? So kind of look for those little cues in there. Okay, we got a couple left. Jordan is better than LeBron James because Jordan won 6 championships. James has only won 2. This one might be tricky. Let's see what you get. It's logos, okay? It's logos because look at, we're using some logic. We're actually using some statistics in here to help us win our argument. All right? Do you guys have questions on that? Is it starting to make sense? Hopefully. Let's keep going. We've got one left. Listerine is recommended by most dental professionals. Come on, you guys got this one. Right on. Good job. Okay, let's see where that took us. All right, good job, guys. Okay. Let me click out of here. Take us back to this image. Where is it? Right here. Okay, so this image. So if that Kahoot, if some of those questions kind of confused you, come back to this image, okay, and see if that kind of helps you. So our logos. This is what I was talking about, like facts, case studies, statistics, maybe even mentioning experiments, just straight up logical reasoning, okay? When we're talking about pathos, obviously, it's just anything that is trying to really pull hard on that emotion as an argument. And then the ethos, that's when almost like we use a person or a group who most people see as competent or an authority figure in that area. That would be ethos. So like I said, if you feel like you're still getting kind of tripped up on some of these 3, please use the resource there in Learning Plan 2, okay? Right here. Okay. I am looking at our time. And I don't want to start you into the next thing because that will take a chunk of our time. So let's take a 10-minute break here. Okay, let's take a human break. You guys, I want you to step away from your screens just for 10 minutes, take a break, go be human. We'll come back and we will jump into the next thing. Okay? So think about any questions that you may have. When we come back, we will answer those questions. But go be human. I will put on a timer and we will go from there. Okay? So I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. So remember how I had pointed out this PowerPoint that talked about the rhetorical situation, those 5 things. If you open up that PowerPoint, not only does it go over the 5 steps there, okay, those 5 things, it actually goes through the logos, the pathos, okay? Look at all the examples it gives you for logos, okay? Ethos, not so much, but there's at least some information. And then pathos, it gives quite a bit of examples to kind of help you determine what type of argument, what type of device is being used, okay? So, like I said, just remember that we've got some pretty great sources. I didn't want to do that. We've got some pretty great sources in Blackboard, in Learning Plan 2. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch gears. We're going to come back to ethos, pathos, and logos in just a little bit. I am going to take you into, I'm going to go back just into regular Learning Plan 2. So remember, we were in the audience activities folder. I'm going to take us into this semester project folder. Okay. Okay. One of the things that we want you to be able to do is to think of questions about your topic. Okay. That is a technique that will help you build the information that you want to put on there or in there in your paper. Excuse me. So let's look through this. Okay, so think about the topic that you guys have come up with. You guys had to do the topic journal. I know that a couple of you were debating between like a couple of different topics. As I said, I've only graded like half of those. They were only due this morning, but I graded about half of those. But think of one of the topics, maybe the one that you're leaning towards, okay? We need you to come up with a research question. I'm going to read through this. This is a step towards discovering what both you and they, meaning your readers, know about your topic, okay, your audience. Remember at the beginning of class, we were talking about the audience, about keeping them in mind. We need to remember what their needs are, even what their knowledge is in relation to your topic, okay? The act of creating a research question, a question you will answer in the thesis statement in the body of your essay, requires knowledge of what your audience knows and doesn't know about the topic. Telling an audience things they already know is a sin in the world of rhetorical discourse. Okay, so the first step is knowing what your audience knows by asking them questions. Not every question gets the answers the asker is looking for. Asking questions in the correct format is key to getting the knowledge you need. So let's imagine a nursing student wants to write an essay arguing that improper hygiene costs the economy billions of dollars due to missed work, illness, okay? The first thing the nurse should do is measure his or her own knowledge about the topic, okay? Like brainstorm, listing, journaling, do a little bit of, writing some stuff down, jotting ideas down. So if you haven't done that, You might want to, because this is very important. It's a very important part of the research process. Okay. The student might first want to know if anyone has experienced like a food-based illness or believe they had experienced one. Okay. And maybe you haven't. I don't know. If you feel comfortable answering in the chat box, has anybody ever experienced food poisoning? Okay. So I have a couple of you that do, right? Okay, so you're part of the audience. Ooh, that's terrible. Oh, that's terrible. You have a personal knowledge, okay? So if you were writing this paper, you have firsthand experience with it, okay? And if you're the audience, if I'm writing it, I know that I have a few of you in the audience that really, really know what this is about, okay? So, that if we just ask that simple question, have you ever had a foodborne illness? And, I asked you guys, have you ever had food poisoning? And it was a very easy yes or no question. So that type of question is nice because you can actually, if you did a poll of people, you could come up with a percentage, okay? And if you had a percentage, you could use that percentage as a rhetorical device. You could use it, excuse me, let me take a drink of water really quickly. Excuse me, you could use it as your attempt at logos in your paper, right? Because you have a statistic. Another thing you can do is just like an open-ended question. So if I'm the nurse, I would say describe when and how you wash your hands. Okay, that one's a little bit, it'll require a little bit more of an answer to the audience. The audience has to think about it and give more than just a yes or no answer. Okay. That would just be like a general statistic or just some anecdotal material that you could put in your paper. You could even use multiple choice. Okay. Let's look at the multiple choice that we have here. So what statement is correct? Meat can be thawed and refrozen. Hands do not need to be washed before cooking food because cooking kills germs. Antibacterial soap is good for overall health. Washing hands before and after meals is a good way to promote health. Okay. So that's just one other way you can format a question. Another type of question is the scale. Okay. So let's say we've got the rate of foodborne illness in the United States is declining. So you could ask your audience to say they strongly agree, not sure, disagree, strongly disagree. Okay. Or there's checklists. You give them a list of things and tell them check all that apply. Okay. Or we can use ranking. Okay. We could list a whole bunch of symptoms of food poisoning, and you could ask your audience to rate it from the least favorite to the most favorite. Okay. I don't know that that there would be a favorite symptom, but you know what we're getting at. You can even ask, just kind of create a list of questions, okay? And by asking those questions, you can just reflect on the answers that they give you, okay? Now, being able to do this with your paper. Now, you may not have the opportunity to always ask your classmates the questions, but formulating the questions helps you to develop your thesis statement. So in this folder, there is a video about how to develop a research question. There is even an activity that kind of just deepens your knowledge there. Okay. I wanted to show you. This is not in the folder yet, and I don't know why, so I'm going to put it in there. So we're going to do an activity in just a minute. When you're sitting down and you have your topic for your paper, You've already maybe brainstormed for some ideas about your subtopics. Okay, remember we did that last week and we talked about that at the beginning of class. I have my topic. I have a handful of subtopics. Okay, maybe I've jotted down some ideas that I have. I want you to try to form a question in regards to your topic. That question is another thing that can help you develop your thesis statement. So when we're thinking of a research question in regards to our topic, make sure it's clear, it's focused, it's concise, complex, and arguable. This one is important because your paper is a persuasive paper. So you need to write a question where potential answers are open to debate rather than it just be an accepted fact, okay? Just from being able to skim through the topic journals that you guys have submitted, it looks like everybody has chosen one or two topics that they are passionate about, which is excellent. That's what you want, okay? So you've already chosen, what is an interesting topic. You've done some preliminary research because you were able to come up with those subtopics. Now what we're going to start doing is we're going to start working on 3, 4, and 5, okay? And there is more. No, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? We are going to do this a little bit differently. What I am going to do is I am going to put you guys back in your groups, okay? In your groups, what I'm going to have you do is take turns, okay? There's about 3 of you in a group. So take turns. If it's my turn, I'm going to say, hey, my topic that I think I'm going to write my paper about, my topic is going to be on gun control. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. It's going to be on gun control. These are some of the subtopics that I came up with. I came up with legislation. One of the other is school shootings, and list off maybe a couple of your subtopics. So if I'm in a group with 2 others, I'm going to give you my topic and my subtopics. For the 2 other individuals in the group, you're going to come up with a question for their topic. Okay, so how does the most recent school shooting affect our current legislation? Okay, maybe that would be one of them. Or, we just had a shooting at the Fox Valley Mall, right? How does the recent shooting at the Fox Valley Mall affect our current gun laws? Okay, so you'll take turns. Each of you will share your topic and your subtopics, and the other 2 will write down what's a potential research question and share that with the individual. Does that make sense? Let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay. So basically, every person should be sharing a topic and a subtopic. It's okay if you're unsure of your topic. You can just give your group what you think is a potential topic. But everybody should share a topic, and everybody will end up helping their group mates by writing a research question for their topic, okay? So, and you will share those research questions with the individual who shared the topic. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let me see. I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes. I think that'll be enough time. Let's shoot for 15 minutes. If we come back into the regular class and you're like, we only got to 2 of us, then we'll pop back into our groups, okay? So let's take 15 minutes. Sorry, my mouse is acting really weird this morning. Let's take 15 minutes in the breakout groups, get some discussion. Okay, I've got a couple of the groups will end up having, I think, 4 people. Hang on a second. Oops. Sorry, I have to do some shifting. Okay. All right, 15 minutes, discuss. Make sure you're getting some questions for your classmates on their topics, okay? This is strictly to help them do some more brainstorming for their paper, okay? You're helping each other out here. So 15 minutes, watch the clock, and then I'll bring us back, all right? Okay, I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. All right, let me show you something that you'll also see the importance of the questions that your classmates came up with. So I'm going to take us into Blackboard. Come on, screen, click over. Okay, so we were in Learning Plan 2. We're in the semester project folder, okay, where it's talking about identifying a research question. So you as an individual, you've come up with your topic, you have some great subtopics for your topics, and now your classmates have offered you some excellent questions that you can apply to your topic, okay? Keep in mind, there's some great resources in this folder regarding research questions, okay? I'm going to show you something. This is not homework that is due before we meet, okay? But I want you to be thinking ahead. You will have another journal entry that is regarding your research question. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the questions that your classmates offered to you, suggested to you, okay? You're also going to do your own research, your own thoughts, and I'm going to want you to answer all these questions, okay? And then finally, I want you to identify what your main research question is, what the big question is that you want to answer in your paper, or that you really want your audience to know by the time they get to the end of your paper, okay? I also want you to explain why it can't just be easily answered. Remember, we don't want a topic or a question that's kind of a so what, or can just be answered with like a simple fact. You're going to be writing a persuasive paper, okay? We want something that has 2 sides that can be argued. So keep that in mind, okay? As I said, this is not due next week. Next week when we meet is actually the 12th. So you have 2 weeks to kind of think about this, but I wanted to show you this is like what you're working towards, okay? So hang on to those questions from your classmates. Do a little bit more research and a little bit more thinking about your tentative topic, okay? So if after you go through all this and you're like, oh man, you know that topic that I shared with you in my topic journal? I don't like it anymore. That's totally fine. Just let me know if you want to switch your topic, okay? It's all helping you work on the research paper. So any questions on this, on the research journal? Again, not due for 2 weeks. You've got plenty of time to think about this, and we'll even talk about it a little bit more next week. Okay, and just so you guys remember, Learning Plan 2, well, come on, load it. And it was this folder right here. Semester project, identify a research question. So all the sources about research questions are in that folder right there. Okay. All right, so are you guys ready? I'm going to take us back in the audience activities and assessments. So I've mentioned a couple of times now that you guys will actually be presenting in groups throughout this semester. You'll be doing it 3 times. So I am going to open up this folder that says Assignment Group Presentations. Let's go through this information. Now, this is a little bit different because we're in a virtual format. So I will discuss how we will be able to present a group presentation in a virtual format, okay? So as far as requirements, it says groups will include 4 to 5 members, and we are a smaller class, so I'm turning my page so I can look here. I believe 2 of the groups have 4 individuals and 1 group has 5. You will also notice that not all of your group members are here today. We will talk about that in a moment. So each member of your group will be part of the presentation. So you can't like all put it together and then just have a spokesperson. Every single one of you needs to speak and present some part of the material. Okay? All right. Now it does say in the assigned chapter, you can disregard that wording. Obviously use your textbook if you need help, but I'm not assigning chapters. Each presentation needs to be at least 10 minutes long, and you guys have to factor in 5 minutes for question and answer periods. So let's say your group gives the presentation. All of the rest of the class, including myself, will then ask you guys questions on your topic, okay? So just know that that's part of the presentation. As far as resources, you guys can use the textbook. You can use any material from NWTC's library page, okay? There is a ton of stuff that you guys can get online through NWTC's library. You can use resources that you find on your own. So like the internet, good old Google, books, magazines, TV, maybe you see something on the news, okay? Any resources provided by me. That means anything that you find in Blackboard, have at it, okay? All right, so the objective. Your group must present a professional, respectful presentation about the topic highlighted below. We're going to go through those topics in a moment. Your goals for this presentation include introduce the topic and its relevance to your audience. How will, can, has this issue affected their lives? What is the exigence? Okay, you're going to start seeing these terms again. Okay, you summarize all major viewpoints regarding the debate by first researching the issue from various perspectives. Showcase the credibility of your sources by highlighting major figures like scholars, professionals, who have written or published or spoken about your issue in academically acceptable forums, okay? If somebody fought about it on Facebook or Twitter, that's not what we would classify as an academically acceptable forum, okay? Discuss the rhetorical situation for each major written accomplishment surrounding your issue. So every source that you find, look at the rhetorical situation. Look at the text, who the reader is supposed to be, the author, the constraints, the exigence. Look at all of that, okay? So what significant historical situation was or is the writing in response to? Who wrote it and when? What is their background on the issue? What were their constraints? Okay, so those questions answer your rhetorical situation. Discuss how the 3 major appeals are used in each major argument about your topic. So reflect back on the logos, pathos, and ethos. Were any of those used? And how were they used? Okay. Provide an appropriate and comprehensible visual aid. And I'm going to offer that to you in a moment. And conclude your presentation by discussing the status of your issue if it remains unresolved. So If you have a controversial issue, there may not be a resolution to it. It may just still be a heated, controversial topic, okay? So let us know what you think the consequences are for like the immediate and long-term future in regards to this topic. All right. These are the topics that you may choose from for this presentation. You may not choose outside of these topics. We have 3 groups. All right. Let me look here. 3 groups, and we've got how many? So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 topics. So here is what I am going to do. I'm going to copy these. I'm going to put them in my randomizer. That's how I got your groups together. That's how I figured out who was in what group. Okay, let me put that in there. So what we're going to do is we have groups 1, 2, and 3. Group 1 is Beatrice, Jasmine, Nicholas, and Justin. Group 2 is Bailey, Ella, Taya, Ulysses, and Alexia. And group 3 is Alexis, Angela, Lexi, and Nika. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to randomize this, and I'm going to grab the first 3 topics. First one will go to group 1. Second one will go to group 2. Third one will go to group 3. Okay? So let's randomize it. All right. So group 1, Beatrice, Jasmine, Nicholas, and Justin, will discuss gun rights. Group 2 will discuss stand your ground laws. Though actually, now that I think of that, stand your ground laws is very similar to gun rights. So I'm going to veto that. Group 2 is going to discuss same-sex marriage. And group 3, I'm going to veto that again. Group 3, I want you to talk about assisted suicide. Okay, and I will put that in Blackboard so you guys know. I'm writing it down. I'm trying to pull out the ones that I know that you guys will be able to find some good sources and that you'll be able to really do something with it. Okay, I'm writing these down so I have it too. All right, so you guys might be sitting there panicking, thinking, how on earth is this supposed to work? We're in a virtual format. All right, so let's go back here. So we're going to try something. If you scroll down, you'll notice I have the groups right here. Group 1 presentation, Group 2 presentation, Group 3 presentation. In a normal format, you guys would actually click here and you would submit, each of you would submit your PowerPoint or any notes that you have. But because we are in a virtual format, we're going to try to do this a little bit differently to make it as easy on you guys as possible. So what I did was these links are to blank PowerPoints through Office 365 online, which means everybody can access them at any time. It's very similar to Google Docs. Do I have anybody in here who has never used Google Docs? Please use the chat box and let me know. Okay. So you guys are familiar with Google Docs. You can have more than one person working on it at a time from any location. Do I have anybody in the group who has never worked with PowerPoint? Okay, wow, excellent. Not familiar. Okay. So if you are not familiar, you may, in your groups, if you have a group mate who's not super familiar with PowerPoint, they're going to need you to kind of help, all right? Help guide them a little bit. It is almost just like writing in a regular document. So maybe if I'm in a group and I don't know how to use PowerPoint very well, I might put the information out there on the PowerPoint, and somebody else can maybe go through and fine tune it, okay, visually. So these links, I'm just going to click on it. As I said, will take you to a blank PowerPoint, okay? You guys can add as many slides as you need. What was I going to say? Add as many slides as you need. There is a possibility that when you click on it, it might ask you to sign in. All it is your school sign-in stuff. So your school username and your school password. Okay. So it is basically Google Slides. Yes. Yes, it is. So if you're familiar with Google Slides, you're going to be A-okay. All right. So let me go back to here. Now, you guys will notice that there's probably one person in each of your groups who is not here today. When I put out my homework announcement, I'm going to say, hey, here's the group. If you weren't in class, you need to contact your group members because you guys can contact each other through Blackboard. Here is how this is going to go down. We have 30 minutes left of this class. I am going to put you guys into breakout groups, really, so you can discuss, talk about your topic, talk about the things that you want to discuss, okay? Remember to come back up here, okay, and look at your objectives. What are you supposed to do? As a group, you guys need to split up the work, okay? You need to go and do some research. You're going to have 30 minutes of class today to work together in breakout groups and to have access. You know, you'll have access to that PowerPoint throughout the entire week. And when we get to class on Friday, next Friday, excuse me, the first 30 minutes of class will also be dedicated to you guys to be in your breakout groups to work some more and to fine tune and finish. Okay? How are you guys feeling? Do you guys have any questions? Use the chat box. Okay. I'm assuming at this point in your academic career, you've had the opportunity to work in groups. You do know that sometimes groups don't work as smoothly as you would like them to. So what I do want you to know is that you may be working in a group, but you are graded individually, okay? So that should maybe help some of you breathe a little bit easier. But please remember, every single group member has to speak, has to present some information, okay? So don't think that you can just slip out and not do that. Please remember that your presentation should be no longer than 15 minutes. Okay, and then also remember there will be a question and answer session after every presentation. All right. So, any questions? All right, so group 1, Beatrice, Jasmine, Nicholas, and Justin, you guys have gun rights. I'm just reminding you, gun rights. Group 2, Bailey, Ella, Taya, Ulysses, and Alexia. You guys have same-sex marriage. Group 3, Alexis, Angela, Lexi, and Nika. You guys have assisted suicide. So remember to kind of bounce back to this. This is your objective. Here's how you're going to be graded. Okay? So go back to that. So does anybody have any questions before I bounce you back into your breakout groups to discuss? Okay, so here's how it's going to play out. The only homework that you guys have for Friday, next Friday, is your main priority is to work on this presentation, okay? I'm going to send out my email that has the homework information, but work on your presentation. I do want you to read chapter 7. And please remember to go back to Blackboard and look at any of the resources in the Learning Plan 2 folder, okay? So those 3 things. presentation, chapter 7, learning plan 2, all the information in there as you need it. So any questions? All right. I'm going to let you guys get to work. And what I will do is at 11:50, I will close out the breakout sessions and then we'll close out class. Okay? Be sure to let me know if you guys need any help.